think it's all about the bass, about the bass, about the bass. No treble.
Sing that again.
No. That's what I love about Queen. I mean, it's just those four guys going at it. 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 Lead guitar, bass, and drum, and like little keyboard. You keep adding too much to it, you just muddy up the waters. In my book, I like it simple. Little keyboard. Four guys going at it. Four guys going at it. Four guys going at it. I'm doing good point tonight. Four guys going at it. Four guys going at it. Four guys going at it. Four guys going at it.
You paid $2.
Do anything for love, but I won't do that.
Love you, Big Al.
I love you too. I enjoy four guys going at it.
Hello, everyone. It never gets old. It never gets old, ever. Oh, God bless you, Al. God bless you. You're the gift that keeps on giving. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Office Hours live stream. I am Professor Geek, and we are back here for another week, another stream, another show. I see somebody was asking in the chat there, Nathaniel Losbo said, what is that wah sound from? That was actually Al. And what he was saying, it was the time where he said, I brought up the movie Legend, and he got so excited and he said, I love Legend. So, I'm blanking on his, help me out, Sound Engraver. What's the guy's name who did the music and put it all together and everything for me? Stephen Cruz. He took that love, he sampled that, and that's what you hear in his Love Legend video that I show sometimes. But when he was talking about four guys going at it, he cut that with I love four guys going at it. So even though it just sounds like whoa, he probably put some sort of effect on it too. But always fun. Al brings a smile to our face. Welcome, Ghost Planet Max Inc. Big Al did pop in. I don't know if he's still here, but he popped in to say hello. Nathaniel's a Lowsball, welcome. Private Eye in Retrospectiva, welcome. The Imaginative Hobbyist, of course, my dear Sound Engraver. Kal-El64, good to see you there. Jason Takes Middle Earth. Did you enjoy your Friday the 13th? Jason Takes Middle Earth. So I think they used AI for it, but it was a meme, and it had Jason, the hockey mask and everything, in a pub with his arm around the leprechaun, from the horror films, the leprechaun, because Friday the 13th kind of, close with St. Patrick's Day. AL, welcome. Studio Soups, good to see you there. Haven't seen you in a bit. Or were you here last time, Studio Soups? I don't know. It seems like I haven't streamed in a while, even though I did stream last week. I'll be honest, I really wasn't feeling it tonight, but I got up. I was napping so comfortably. It was such a good nap. Griff, our little cat, he was napped up in his little hammock there right beside me. He still hasn't moved. Lucky. He's still curled up in his little ball over there. But it was hard getting up and going ahead and do the stream. But I'm here. Welcome, Michael Schimbati, Leia Plus Size, Tom Spiegel. Don't know if I'm repeating myself here, but welcome to everyone. And Michael Schimbati popping off with a super chat there said, Prof, watching Dahmer, the Dahmer thing on Netflix, and was thinking, from your perspective, do you think villains are made by circumstances or destiny is what makes them villains? That's actually a really good question, Michael. Yeah, it's the whole nature versus nurture argument, right? Are you asking from a writing standpoint or from a real life standpoint? Honestly, they're actually, if to come to think of it, they're both the same answer. I think that you make a mistake if you're exclusively one or the other. Now, maybe from a writing standpoint, you could have a 100% destiny-driven character without any kind of nature or nurture. But it always, I don't know, like like the Terminator, for example. That'd be a great example. In the first Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator, he was created for this purpose to go kill, Sarah Connor, and that's what he was created for. Doesn't matter what kind of life he had once he was created. That's what he was created for. And you might think, well, maybe that's a cheat because that's a machine and it's not a person. But I think in fiction you can have 100% nature characters who are good or bad from the beginning, no matter what. Um, but I think the best characters usually have some mixture in between. Like, to give you, the example of a good character, Superman. Um, he's just naturally good from the start, but he also has the upbringing of the Kents in Smallville to really shape that goodness within him. I don't like stories where it's what if he was raised over here? What if he was like Superman Red Sun? I just have no interest in that. Although, and even in that, at the end, like there's still some like goodness that kind of, I don't know. I just don't like those kinds of stories because it's not a question of 100% nurture. That's it's kind of equivalent to the argument of essentialism versus constructionism. Do you think there are essential natures in people, or are they all just constructed? And the woke liberal, certainly the academic view is it's all constructed. Everything's a social construct. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. It's incredibly naive. It's just as naive as saying that everything's just an essential nature and there's no, nurture in it to it. So yeah, I haven't seen the Dahmer thing. It's not really kind of on my radar, cup of tea to kind of see, but I did hear about it. But it's an interesting question, and it's one to think about with your characters as you write. Definitely. Let's see if I missed anything else. Gentle Savage, welcome. Said, "Yo, Prof, ever heard or read any of Peter David's comics?" Yeah, was it you that asked last time? Maybe you asked it and then you took off before I answered it. But yeah, I've met Peter David. I didn't know him personally, but I was for a while I worked as the author liaison at a science fiction convention that was kind of somewhat near here, and he was one of the like every year authors there, author guests, and he was always a very nice guy, and I've read some of his comics and loved them quite a bit. His Incredible Hulk stuff, some of his Spider-Man stuff, his Supergirl stuff back in the day. I enjoyed that. His Young Justice stuff that he did, wonderful. Um, I haven't read enough of his stuff to know to like every single thing, that to know if I've liked every single thing he's ever written. I know he had some opinions. I'd hear him talk about some geek stuff sometimes, and I didn't really share all of his geek opinions. But he was always a nice guy. In fact, one funny story I have about Peter David, he was doing a reading of one of his Star Trek novels because he wrote a lot of, prose novels as well. And I didn't read any of his Star Trek novels because I'm not really big in reading a lot of the Star Trek fiction. It's just something I never really got into. But I think it was, you guys, if you're Peter David aficionados, you'll know this. I think it was Excalibur. There was a ship that he created, within the fiction universe, like the pocketbooks universe, and a ship and crew that he created, and it was going. I think it was called Excalibur, but I might get that wrong. But anyway, there's a character in it. And he was talking. Someone asked him a question. Have you ever written any characters based on real life people? And he said that his daughter was dating this guy who just loved Star Trek, thought it was so cool that, Peter David was his girlfriend's dad and everything like that. And was just love and always like, oh, put me in a book. And he just kept on and on and on and on forever and ever and ever. And his daughter's like, you got to do it. You got to put him in a book, So he eventually did. He put him in, he gave him put a character in there that sort of had his name or something like that. And I think it was like an engineering character or something like that. And it was in like 2 books or something. It's Excalibur. Yeah. Okay. Al's confirming it. It was in like 2 books or something like that. And then the guy broke up with his daughter and broke her heart. And he said, so in the next book, he gave that character the slowest, most horrific death you could imagine. He said it was in the context of like a heroism thing, like he was sacrificing himself or something to save the ship. So it worked with the story. It wasn't just, but he said like the guy's like he could feel his flesh melting from his face or something like that. He's like, break up with my daughter, man. It's over. So I thought that was pretty funny. Uh, but yeah, I think you had asked that question last time. Got another super chat in here from Studio Soups. Welcome. Thank you again. You said I like in Lois and Clark. Oh, the New Adventures of Superman. Lois is put in the alternate dimension where the Kents died and she died, and Clark isn't Superman. He has the nature within him, but he just needs the right push. Yeah, that's a great. I really need to watch all of Lois and Clark because I really enjoyed the show back in the day. I was mad back in the day that Superman didn't have a spit curl. I was like, that's dumb, which I still think is dumb. He needs a spit curl. But I love Dean Cain in the role, and I love the show even back then. I just wanted a spit curl, you know. But yeah, I love that show, and I've watched reruns since, but I don't think I've ever sat down and watched every single episode all the way through. That's on my list one day to do because I do love that. But that's a great idea. I mean, that's a great take on it. You know, he's got the nature within him. I mean, that's kind of like what I was saying. Was it last stream or the stream before that? How, you know, thinking about the metaphorical father and mother in the metaphorical Oedipal complex, Smallville, the Kent's upbringing in Smallville, Kansas gives Clark the nurturing, unconditional love, the metaphorical mother to always fight for in the world, you know. Um, so that would make sense there with that. Tom Spiegel, thank you for the super chat. Said I love reading Trek novels, and I look forward to reading some of the Peter David's old stuff, plus the Star Trek Titan series. I have one signed by both authors. Yeah, you'd love some. I don't know where you live in the world, but you'd love some of those conventions. I don't really go to them anymore. I'd love to go to a sci-fi convention again, but the ones was going to was in Baltimore, Maryland, which is a little ways away from me. It's actually where Big Al and I met at those Baltimore conventions. They had one called Shore Leave and one called Farpoint. And they used to be at the same hotel and everything, which was a magical little place. That hotel was just like all these twists and turns. It was like in a hobbit burrow. It was a lot of fun. But that hotel like closed down, and I don't know. I just kind of fell out of going. There are some conventions to the south that are not too far away from me that I'd like to start going to again. It was a lot of fun. I wonder how Sound Engraver would do at a convention. It'd be interesting to get her there. I never did the cosplay thing, but I love taking pictures of other people's cosplay, just kind of chronicling the whole, you know, event and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, but yeah, you a lot of those authors, Peter David, Bob Greenberger, what's his name? Howie. I can't remember. What's Howie's last name? The guy who wrote the Klingon dictionary. He's always there. Who else was always there? I'm blanking on some of the names. I used to have the whole list that I would talk to them. Keith R.A. DeCandido would be there all the time. Michael, I forgot. Anyway, bunch of authors show up there quite regularly. You'd have a blast there if you like the Trek novels in particular. Darth Enigma, thank you so much for the super chat there. Says, hey, Prof, did you miss me? Of course you did. Who wouldn't? Of course I did. Who wouldn't? Like your little throwback there. Good to see you, Darth Enigma. Howie Weinstein. Yeah, I kept wanting to say Epstein. I'm like, no, that's wonder why I thought of that name. That's been in the news a lot lately. No, Howie Weinstein. And who was the Michael something? I forget his name. He wrote so many great stuff. I've got some signed got his Wolfman novel that he did. I'm blanking on his name, but it'll come back to me. He did a great novel, Martian Manhunter. He even wrote a great children's novelization, like children's story style novelization of the origin story of Superman in the animated series, which is cool. All right. So, we can chat about, anything you guys want to. I did have one topic though, which I don't know how much there is to say about it, but it just occurred to me. I've got in the title of the stream today, inspirational versus affirmational. And let me get to the super chat first though, because it's back to Studio Super talking about the Lois and Clark. In the show, that spit curl is actually interesting as Clark's look leans more into that, while Superman has the hairstyle. Yeah, you're right. Clark has more of the messy hair. Clark ought to have. Maybe it's a signal the show focuses more on Clark. Maybe, and also the Clark slash Superman setup of the show was was more heavily based on the John Byrne comics of the 80s. Clark wasn't the klutzy, bumbling Clark that you would see in the movies, Christopher Reeve films and whatnot. And while I do prefer the klutzy, bumbling Clark, I don't hate it the way they did it in you know in Superman the animated series, for example. But also Lois and Clark. But that's a good point. Maybe it's because they were just trying to focus more on Clark. I love the characters playing his parents. I've talked about how I love the guy playing Perry. He's my favorite Perry ever. I wonder if Terry Hatcher is pretty close to being my favorite Lois Lane ever, to be honest. I don't know if I'd name her my favorite period. I have to think it through, but she's close. Um, so yeah. Anyway, welcome, Rydia Merchant. See you there popping in as well. So what I was saying there, I named the stream the inspirational versus affirmational characters. You guys know what inspirational means. I mean, that's honestly any character, any superhero who's a proper superhero, a proper American monomyth superhero should be inspirational to some degree. Whether you're an aspirational hero who's good from the start and is always trying to inspire others, or even a cathartic motivational heroes like a Spider-Man or somebody like that does screw up and but teaches people how to get up and keep going. That's an inspiration of its own. So uh inspirational characters, I would argue any superhero in the proper superhero genre should be inspirational in some sort. And I say proper superhero genre because you can have some character or some stories which maybe deal with superheroes but aren't really trying to be the traditional superhero genre. They're trying to be some sort of deconstruction of it or some sort of parallel kind of thing to it or something. I don't know. Um the what the type of characters I hate are the affirmational characters. I loathe affirmational characters. And I'll tell you, I'll define that and show you what I mean by them. But I think any type of writing, any type of genre, the affirmational character is bad writing. It's bad writing. It's akin to people who try to put an ideology into a story, and that's why they're writing the story is to make sure people know that this is okay and you need to do this and that. So if you're like trying to write an agenda into a story, it's a similar writing sin to having an affirmational character. Probably going to make some people mad with this because I'm going to give you an example. But I've been rewatching Naruto, right? I got when I was doing my first watch through, I got as far as a little bit after Jiraiya's death. And after Jiraiya's death, I think I watched a little bit like the next or the ending of that next arc or whatever, and I think the film that came next. But then I just fell behind in rather than going back at that midway or part where I was and start off, I just started watching from the beginning again because I had so much fun doing it the first time. I'll probably skip the filler episodes this time, but I've been watching it through, and I'm enamored with the character of Naruto. It's funny because I've been rewatching My Hero Academia as well, and Deku's a character that just straight to my heart. He's an aspirational hero. Dude needs to stop crying, but he's the type of character that I truly love, that I'm inspired by. Just knows that there's a right thing to do, is going to do the right thing, wants to be the best they can, is trying to learn from others, is always trying to. I love that. And Naruto is a similar yet different character. And I was thinking, well, what is it? Because Naruto intrigues me, and I do enjoy following him as a character. I like him as a character quite a bit, but he doesn't quite. I don't relate to him as much as I would a Deku. So I wonder, and I was trying to think it through, and I've said before that, one of the unique things about Naruto is that he's an aspirational trickster. He is aspirational in that he believes there's a right and a wrong, and he wants to do the right given that choice. He wants to do the right at any point. He'll never debate whether he should go be a villain or debate whether he should be, I just might as well be evil, or whatever. Now he's a child when you first meet him and he grows through a lot of growing pains and stuff like that. But he's a trickster because he's a constant screw up, right? He's always screwing up. He's always, but in any of his screw ups, it's never, is he trying to do the wrong thing? It's not. He's always trying to do the right thing, so that makes him aspirational as opposed to a cathartic motivational. Because the example I always give is Spider-Man for cathartic motivational. Spider-Man in his origin story, when he went out to go make money, to use his powers to make money instead of fighting for good, and then he got all kind of pissy with the guy who wouldn't give him the money. And in most of the tellings, it's in the original 2002 film, but it's also in a lot of the comic book tellings and whatnot, when he fails to stop the thief who would then go on to murder Uncle Ben. That was him just being petulant and selfish, right? He could have stopped that thief, but it was just all about, no, you're stiffing me, you're not giving me my money, then I'm not even going to do that for you. He was not doing the right thing. He made a conscious choice in that moment not to do the right thing, and it bit him in the butt royally, obviously, but he learned from that. Spider-Man learns from that and tries to do better, and that makes him a wonderful cathartic motivational hero that we love. You never really have a Naruto moment like that. Unless it's something that's just sort of a childish little growing pain that's not really, he never consciously, like, he'll do things. You can think of things he's done in the series, and oh, yeah, that was something you did, which wasn't necessarily the right thing to do, but it was just sort of childish silliness. It was never him consciously thinking, I'm going to do evil right now, or I'm going to not do the right thing right now. So he is aspirational, but he's a trickster, and that he's a knucklehead, and he's um, he takes a ways, it takes a while to get there, but he gets there. Um, and I like him for that. I finally realized the other day who he reminds me of, though, a character that I absolutely loathe, because this is a character that I think is affirmational instead of inspirational. I think he's a piece of crap character. I've talked about him before, Damian Wayne from DC Comics. The Batman's son, which was just the stupidest idea in the world. It was Grant Morrison, so that tells you pretty much why it was the dumbest idea in the world. Damian Wayne is just a crap character through and through. And some people just clutch their pearls, and there's like, it's almost a freaking white knighter group for Damian Wayne. Like, you're not allowed to say anything critical about some actresses or women YouTubers or whatever, because they're white knights come marching. How dare you? Damian Wayne's almost got that kind of following. It's ridiculous. And you hear them in the kind of things that they say when they're trying to defend Damian Wayne as Robin. He's trying. Look, he's trying. He's had a really horrible past. Look at all the things he's had to go through, and he's trying to be better. He's trying, okay? He's trying. Here's a hard little truth pill for you to swallow. If you never actually get better, if you keep making the same stupid, wrong-headed mistakes you were making all along, then you're not really trying. You're not really trying. Stop pretending you are. And sometimes this is just a matter of the writers just trying to, constantly keep Damian Wayne in this state. I think sometimes it might be just a matter of how comic books don't allow characters to really truly change it all. They might progress within an arc, but then as soon as another writer comes on, they revert back to their, kind of starting state or whatever. And yeah, you can pick some moments or some stories where, like, oh, that's kind of a cool Damian Wayne story, isn't it? And like it's often quoted when we talk about this, his presence in Super Sons, the original Super Sons, with him and young John Kent. And I enjoyed those too. That was during the Rebirth era. I didn't give a crap for Damian Wayne. I know he had come about before the New 52, but then I didn't even like him when he was, a thing before the New 52. So I didn't really follow him much. I wasn't interested in the whole, Dick Grayson is Batman and Damian Wayne is Robin thing. I was like, just stop it. Give me Bruce Wayne back. So I wasn't interested in that. And then of course, New 52, I couldn't give a crap about anything that they did. So Rebirth happened, and I thought, well, here's a character that I don't like, but you know what? He's kind of palatable. And he wasn't palatable himself, but he was interesting because of the influence that Jonathan Kent had on him. Superboy and Dame and Robin there as Super Sons. So that was fun, right? And it kind of hooked me in a little bit. And I thought, well, maybe he's a character that can grow. Maybe he's a character that has done a little bit better. So I picked up the Teen Titans Rebirth title that they were doing. They in Rebirth they had the Titans title, which was Wally West, Nightwing, or I don't was Nightwing. Was Nightwing? Yeah, I think he was part of that. But they had all of the it's kind of Titans have so much of a varied history, so it's like, who are the original Titans, but for the original Titans they had them aged up a little bit more like a Wally West level, and they were the Titans. And then Damian Wayne in the Rebirth era was starting the Teen Titans, and he was going out and getting some of the teen characters like the Black Wally West was a dumb character. Starfire was like teen, and Raven was like teen or something at that point. So I gave it a try, and I'm reading through, but he's just such a little punk. And then he gets to the point where he decides, he takes it upon himself to give Wally West a heart condition so he can barely use his powers anymore, because this is just the best way to save the world. I'm not going to talk to anybody about it. I'm just going to take this into my own hands. And he's a crap character. He's a garbage character. And he does that over and over again. And I think probably he might hook some people in who think, oh, look, see, he is trying to get better and he's striving to get better. And that would be okay. That's the basis of a cathartic motivational character. A character who maybe you had a horrible past or whatever, you screw up, but you're trying to do better, as long as you are progressing and getting better. And you can have some horrible missteps, but overall, if you back up at the graph, they're supposed to be going up, and Damian Wayne doesn't do that. Damian Wayne, at the end of one arc, maybe he's up here, then he goes back down here. And he gets up there, then he goes back down here. That's just the nature of his character. And some people might be duped into it, not really seeing the bigger picture, but a lot of people, the people who become the angriest when I start talking about how Damian Wayne is a garbage character, they keep reciting that one mantra. He's trying. Look, he's trying. And what they mean by that, if they look at Damian Wayne and he can be considered a hero and a good character, a good guy, because he's trying, but he doesn't actually make any progress, well, that's just an affirmation to them. And you talk to them and they really have this deep personal connection to the character. And it's so psychologically transparent, because that character tells them that they don't really have to try that much. They don't have to try that hard. As long as they can say they're trying, it's fine. And if you guys have ever known somebody who's an addict, an alcohol addiction or drug addiction or whatever, it's that kind of thing. Look, I'm trying. You just have to give me credit for trying, but you're not making any progress. You don't expect night and day, right? Anybody who's trying anything that's difficult, it's going to be a long, arduous progress, but you should be able to back up and see the progress, right? Despite the little pitfalls, ups and downs, it should be overall progress. And that's in people who just, march to the defense of Damian Wayne. It's ultimately because they want that affirmation that they don't really have to try that hard either. They don't have to try that hard. It's okay. They're just trying. And I don't know for sure. I want to guess that it's a peculiar American thing to want to just affirm yourself because you want to be better. Okay, well, you're good because you want to be there. But if you don't actually make any progress, if you're not actually putting in any of the work, then you're not. And it's a weird American thing, and maybe it's in other cultures, but it's it's certainly not in Japan. It's certainly not in Japanese culture. You better show your work, and I don't know where it comes from. I haven't thought it through completely. I think part of it is the Calvinist basis for a lot of American culture. America's got a lot of different foundations for our culture. But if you think about like the Puritans who came over, they were heavily Calvinistic. And and even saying somebody's a Calvinist doesn't really tell you much anymore, because there are all these different degrees of Calvinism that somebody might adhere to. But if you think of like the strictest form of Calvinism, which is the once saved, always saved, somebody's thinking that they can just, it doesn't matter if they rape, pillage, and murder because they said the sinner's prayer once when they were a kid and they are saved. That kind of idea. Now the Puritans didn't think that way, but that strain of Calvinism I've seen in a lot of pockets of culture. I think maybe that's one reason for it. That's not the be all and end all reason for it, but I think another reason for it is, well, you also see it in the woke culture, the woke culture that was trying to do the whole big is beautiful body positivity, which is fine. No one should be berating anybody who's struggling with weight or struggling with anything in their body, but it's unhealthy and it's simply illogical to tell a man who is 400 pounds that he's perfect the way he is. No, he's a health risk. He needs to do something. He's a health risk. He needs to do something so that he can save his life. It's not just okay to be like that. You don't want to go the opposite way and shame them and make them feel horrible about it, but you don't lie to them. And so that whole body positivity thing is another example, of taken too far. So I don't know. It's a peculiarly American thing, I think. Unless you guys know of it existing in other cultures, and I'm just not thinking of it. But yeah, that's just the difference. The inspirational characters are great, and in some genres like hero fiction, you need inspiration. They need to inspire you. But affirmational characters, I can't think of a time where they're ever actually useful to a story. I think they only exist. Now you can have a character who might have uh affirming traits about them, and that's what the cathartic motivational hero, they have some affirming traits about them, and just in the fact that you can see somebody else screw up and you still, it's like, hey, I screw up too. That's cool. Okay, so I can get up and do better even if I screwed up. I'm not just damaged goods, and that's the affirming, but it's lumped together with motivational, right? I always get on my students whenever they just say cathartic heroes as a shorthand for cathartic motivational. Like, no, no, no. You have to say the whole thing. It has to be cathartic motivational. Because if you just have a cathartic character, that's Hamlet. That's not a hero. That's not somebody you want to emulate at all. So so yeah, an affirming nature isn't like an affirming attributes to a character isn't bad, but when they just exist to affirm your place, to affirm your, lack of trying or whatever, that's a crap character. That's just as bad as like putting in an agenda or something. Um, oh, this is it. I'm gonna go back and get some super chats I know I've got here, but I just saw this. Leia Plus Size says, the problem is today's writers don't want characters to have a mentor. It's like they don't want them to do better. Yeah, that's weird. Because Damian Wayne, Batman's not really his mentor. You know, he tell Batman to go, jump off a bridge. He doesn't care what Batman says. Yeah, but secretly he does. Secretly he actually does. Well, I don't care. Let me see it. Let me see it. Stop trying to manipulate your logic in your mind to make it all make sense and work. But that's a great example. It is a great point. Leia Plus says we need the mentors. It's such a vital character, and characters need more than one mentor. Any hero needs more than one mentor. Batman himself, certainly first off he has Alfred, but he goes through the different teachers that he's had. Jim Gordon is to some degree a mentor in terms of being like a father figure. He doesn't teach him how to be Batman or anything, but yeah, characters need even more than one mentor, I'd say, at different stages in their development in life, definitely. Yeah, I agree, Ghost Planet. Dick, Jason, and Tim are all better than Damian Wayne. Now, I'm not a fan of Jason Wayne brought back to life. Or not Jason Wayne. I'm not a fan of Jason Todd. I think he should have stayed dead. I think that was the dumbest move ever. There are certain characters that should never be brought back no matter what. But of course they're comics, so they're going to do them all. But your Uncle Ben, your Jason Todd. I mean, these are just characters that should never be. Jor-El should never be brought back, and they did that too, which was dumb. Because it undoes and affects too much the it undoes the effect that their death had on other characters too much. And I know some people love Red Hood, when Jason Todd comes back and becomes the Red Hood. But again, hearing them talk about it, it almost seems like it's just that affirmation thing again. Now, I don't follow Red Hood, so I can't really knuckle down on that and say, see, Jason Todd Red Hood is a garbage character too. I can't say that because I just don't care enough about that character to follow him. But I did follow Damian Wayne, and Damian Wayne pops up in my radar a lot because I do like Batman stuff, and sometimes he's just there, annoyingly so. But yeah, Tim is my favorite. Well, I mean, I love Dick as well, Dick Grayson, but Tim Drake, you just can't beat Tim Drake. I'm showing Sound Engraver the last season of the Batman the Animated Series, which is the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, I think they called it, where they changed some of the character designs a little bit. And Tim is fun in that, but he's really kind of an amalgamation of Tim Drake and Jason Todd, right? Because they couldn't do the whole Joker beating Robin to death with a crowbar thing in a children's cartoon, so they didn't bring Tim in as a teenager with really good detective skills and everything. They kind of lumped him a little bit with Jason Todd's origin, but not with the they took away the snotty little twerp that Jason Todd was, and gave him Tim Drake's likable character. All right, let me go back and make sure I don't miss any of these super chats because I did see a few of those come in, and I don't want to certainly don't want to miss those. And then I'll see what else other people are saying. Darth Enigma. Quick, everyone, hit prompt with your anime recommendation. You showed up, Darth Enigma. Michael Scimbati says, watch Rob Zombie's Halloween and loved how he took Michael from pure evil and showed what neglect and abuse can create a monster. I view Joker, Lex, same trauma made them not born evil. What do you think? I actually disagree with you on that. I disagree with you completely on that. And that's fine. You can think that or whatever. I just I have a different view. I that's one of the things I didn't like about Rob Zombie's Halloween. And let me explain this too, because maybe when it comes to the Halloween movies, I've watched all of the Halloween movies up through H2O, from the first one up through H2O. And to be honest, I think it should have just remained a single movie. Because if you go back even now and rewatch Halloween from 78, I think it was, and put out of your mind all the sequels. So put out of your mind the whole, oh, he's actually her brother and all that kind of stuff. Put that out of your mind and just watch that movie for what that movie's showing you and what that movie's trying to say. And the movie's trying to say that evil does exist in the world. Elemental evil exists in the world. Even in this young boy who suddenly just kills his sister for no reason, there is such a thing as elemental evil. And it works in that because you don't really get deep, specific details of Michael Myers' backstory. You know what happened when he was a kid, and he's come out and doing these things now. And in the script, they didn't even call him Michael Myers all the time. They called him the Shape because he's the boogeyman. I mean, that's one of the themes of the movie, too. They talk about the boogeyman. And it's on Halloween, and Halloween's the night that you realize that there is actually evil in the world. Now, in real life, human beings, there's no real life human being that is elementally evil. So you're right in that, Michael Scimbati. I would agree with you in the real world aspect. In the real world, any human being is redeemable. Any human being now, but from a Christian perspective, we can be influenced by extremely elemental evil, right? There's no redemption for the devil, so, but in a story, in a fictional story, they exist to recontextualize things and help us think about it. So I like the idea of Michael Myers as just elemental evil because it helps us realize that there's elemental evil in the world. And I love the ending when he's just missing. He falls off the thing. He's been stabbed and stuff. You could say maybe he's dead and they find him 10 feet away later or something, but they don't. He's gone. And that tells you that the evil is still out there in the world. You can survive the battles, but you'll never win the war on evil in this life, and I think the Joker exists as a wonderful elemental evil for Batman, because he's a human being, you're right. And there are a lot of stories that, hey, this is a possible backstory for him, or this is maybe the one bad day he had or whatever that made him like that. But the key to those backstories, when done well, is that they never specifically say this is his actual backstory. This is really what made him the Joker. Because if you ever do that, the whole mystique around him just crumbles. Because he's such a fascinating character because he's a human being who represents elemental evil. You don't really know why he wants to watch the whole world burn or whatever. He just does. And some people just do. As many problems as I have with the Nolan Dark Knight, it's a great line. I love that take. Alfred says some people just want to watch the world burn. And it is true. It is true. Now, I mean, Batman, because it's a fictional universe and he can have actual real elemental evils like a other dimensional being or whatever who's not fictional or not human, rather. He's, got these elemental traits or whatever, Azarath or whatever, or whatever, some of the demons and whatnot that are actually in the DC universe. But I think in fiction, we do need to have some characters that are just elemental. Even Lex Luthor, you mentioned Lex too. Yes, Lex did have horrible, upbringing with his father, but I think any good telling of Lex needs to show that he was willing to make those choices anyway. I'm thinking about in particular his Superman Secret Origins by Jeff Johns and wonderfully drawn by Gary Frank. And you've got some of the crappy things that happened to Lex, when he knew Clark as a child or whatever, but you also get that he was a little snot from the beginning too. I think if you excuse too much of a person's evil, then you're making excuses for evil. Like I said before, I do think there needs to be a balance. I think you can't, for most characters. Now, somebody like Michael Myers in the original Halloween, I think that's just supposed to be elemental evil, period, because you never even see his face. He's just a shape, and that's what he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be a stand-in for the boogeyman, so that's my take on that. But I understand if you enjoy characters slightly different or whatever. I'm not trying to preach to you. You asked me for my take, so I'm giving it to you there. Abyss Dragon Slayer, cool name. You said thank you for the super chat. Said, did you ever follow the DC Blackest Night Brightest Day storyline? Do you think it could have gone somewhere good if they didn't end up going with the New 52 reboot? I didn't follow it because I didn't get into it. I really don't know a lot about it. I know that somewhere what some of the characters ended up as with their rings and stuff like that, but I missed it. So I was just gonna catch it later. Once it wrapped up, I was just gonna catch the graphic novels or whatever. But then the New 52 reboot happened, and it was just obvious that it never got never got the wrap up it was intended to have or whatever. So I just never got into it. It also seems a little gimmicky. I'm not saying it is. I haven't read it. Maybe it's really quite good, or maybe there are some really good stories in it. But it just seems a little gimmicky. It smacks of like the Dark Knight Metal or whatever, Justice League Metal. Is that what it was called? That when DC Rebirth was doing so well, and then Scott Snyder and Tom King and Bendis just came in and took a dump everywhere. And Scott Snyder's dump was part of the Justice League Metal or Dark Knight Metal or whatever. It just seems too gimmicky. Contain it a little bit. It's comics, so everything's got to, especially if it's Scott Snyder writing, it's got to be cosmic and world-shattering and universal and interdimensional involvement. And from a storytelling perspective, it's really hard to do that well, and especially constantly over and over and over again. So you might have just to take a piece of that and develop it. Like, I don't like the idea of the Batman who laughs, but it's not a bad idea if you wanted to kind of just develop that or something. I don't know. But you tell me, was the Blackest Night, Brightest Day, was there good stories in there? I just never read it. Studio Super says the affirmational characters nowadays are ironic, as they are made in fear for people's vulnerabilities and try to accommodate, but in doing so, they're ensured they will always remain vulnerable. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's what it really gets to the whole point of what I argue for when I argue for aspirational heroes. When people take the aspirational hero like He-Man or Superman, and they bring them down a little bit so they can be more relatable. We need to relate to them a little. Look, they're too high up there. They're just so unrelatable. Let's dirty them up a little bit, so they can be like us. And the way I put it is, if this is our human potential and this is aspirational heroes way up there, if you bring down aspirational heroes, you bring down the level that we'll try to achieve as human potential. If they're high up there, we know that's unreachable. But if we're reaching for it and striving for it, maybe we'll get up this high, you know? But if you bring down the level of aspirational heroism, we won't bother getting up that high. We'll say, well, this is kind of proportionally closer. So yeah, affirming characters, or affirmational characters, however you want to say it. Affirmational is kind of a weird form of the word, but it matched inspirational, So I just went with it like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Sound engraver. Come on, at least they want to be. They want to be. Come on. They're trying. Damian Wayne's trying. He's trying. Give him a break. Let's see. Make sure I didn't. I think that was. Is that all super chats? I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody's super chat for it. No, there's a couple more here. Sound engraver, my dear sound engraver, $5. People want a villain's backstory because they need an explanation. Elemental evil is the unknown, and people can't comprehend it. Yeah, it's true. People always want a backstory, and it's one of the things that bugs me as a writer too. Having participated in like writing workshops and stuff. I've mentioned this before, but when you're in a writing workshop in which 5 to 10 people or whatever have all exchanged stories, and you're all reading each other's stories, and then you get together in a workshop, group feedback on one person's story at a time, there's a certain level of stress, of expectation. Like, you're supposed to look, other people are saying smart stuff about your work. You need to say smart stuff about their work too, and sort of feedback or whatever. And some people feel that pressure, so they just jump to the easiest thing to say, the things that people are always saying, like, we need to know why they're doing this. We don't really have a lot of motivation behind this character. And sometimes that's true, but it's not always true, and it's just one of those stupid things that people jump straight to because that's an easy thing. Yeah, oh, there's a truly evil villain. Why is he evil? I'm wondering if we could get some reasons for why no, it's dumb. Is there a reason? Does the story just need elemental evil? Is it one of those stories? Because again, especially when you're dealing with a superhero story, which is the mythic, right? This is myth. Any old Superman or Batman comic book or Spider-Man comic book or whatever, it's not, the story in there isn't the same as universally lauded, say the same as a mythological story of old, but it's the same genre, right? It's the same. It's empowered heroes, doing things, as I talk about in my lecture. I think it's what did I call it on YouTube when I released it? Superheroes in America, I think it's called. You can search Professor Geek Superheroes in America, and it's a presentation that I gave, a lecture I gave at a university, and I put the images up there and everything, and I talk about how comic book superheroes are our modern day, the most direct link we have to ancient mythology. And I show like the metapes, for example, on the Parthenon, which would have been brightly colored and in a lot of action poses. And then I show that especially to like the first Superman comics, primary colors, very limited text and dialogue, action poses. And, it's the same kind of thing. That's just an argument from the materiality of the text, but story-wise and inspiration, it's there too. We can keep going with that. Studio Soups, thank you very much. Says, I always laugh when I think about why Silver Age Lex hates Superman so much. It's because he made him bald. Yeah, he did everything he did because Superman caused his hair to have a disability. Yeah, sometimes comics, when they were kind of, they're still for kids, so there's some things they don't bother explaining too deep, in the Silver Age, but at the same time, they were developing some pretty intricate mythologies that later, especially post Bronze Age, people go back and really, that's why I mentioned Superman Secret Origins. That's why I love that so much, because it took like everything we loved about Superman from the Silver, Bronze, and Modern Age or whatever, and kind of amalgamated it together into a really good, this is how it could all coexist, Crypto, Superboy, the whole idea and everything. All right. I think I caught up on the super chats there, but Jason takes Middle Earth. Darth Vader is a good example of this. He's a tragic figure, but while he may have made mistakes and been tricked by Palpatine, he's still evil, evil scumbag, cool villain, yeah, but still evil. And Darth Vader's redemption is done so perfectly because it's a deathbed redemption. And, it's important that he be redeemed before dying, because that's part of Luke's story. That's part of Luke's story arc. Luke wouldn't be the aspirational hero he is if he was wrong about his father. But you can't have a character that truly evil be redeemed and just be a good guy now for a while. Like that's in real life. We pray that could happen to people, but in stories, it's a hard thing to ask people to swallow. Because stories are supposed to be a little more archetypal and hero stories in particular, or mythic stories, something like Star Wars and so forth. Oh yeah, Kal-El, I agree completely. Jor-El's speech to Kal-El and Superman, the movie about humanity's potential, encapsulates why Superman is such an aspirational character. This is why I rage so much at the imbeciles who try to say that James Gunn's Superman is fine. Why are comic pros, like not today's comic pros, but like comic pros who gave us classic comics in the day, why are they up there trying to say James Gunn's Superman is great, guys? It's real Superman. I mean, the only thing I can think of is they enjoyed the royalties they're getting that too much, to be honest about it, because that is what makes Superman Superman, just as much as his upbringing with the Kents. He was sent by Jor-El. The Heavenly Father sent his only son for the benefit of Earth. That is a core principle of Superman. You take that away just because James Gunn needed an end, he needed a way to relate, then it's not Superman anymore. Jor-El had to, they can be a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. For this reason alone, I've sent you, my only son, so that you can, lead them by example, lead them into a greater tomorrow. That's a seminal part of the mythology. It's not the only part of the mythology. He's also, the Moses archetype and the sun god archetype a little bit in there mixed in as well. But it's a vital part of the mythology. And you take that away, and so many people I just shake my head at the stupidity of it when I hear people say, well, I didn't like that part. I mean, I thought that part was weird, but everything else is really great. It doesn't, you can't, it's like saying, okay, look, I don't like the fact that the table only has one leg. Okay, I don't like that. But everything else about the table's really great. It doesn't work as a table. It won't function properly as a table if it has one leg. But people just think they can do that, pick and choose with that, with mythology and stuff. It's ridiculous. So anyway, got all fired up. Didn't even want to stream tonight. And I just rocked through an hour there. Look at that. That's an excellent way of putting it, Ohas. James Gunn makes movies for James Gunn. You can say the same thing for Zack Snyder. This is the auteur directors, the ones who, and it's not a bad thing to be an auteur director if you're doing the right subject matter for an auteur director. Superhero stories, any kind of cultural mythology, established cultural mythology stories are not the right subject matter for auteur directors. And when I say auteur directors, it's French for the author, where the idea came about in the 40s, really with film noir, I think, about that era where the idea came that directors were the author of the film. It wasn't just the studio. Before that, studios were known for different kind of films. This studio was known for Universal was known for their horror, for example. MGM was known for their musicals and so forth. But then the idea came about that the directors really should be the author of the film. And then that singled in even more on some directors where, you think about a Hitchcock film. Any Hitchcock film is going to have certain elements. It's going to have certain themes. It's going to have certain traits, certain types of characters, because the film needs to match the director when you're dealing with an auteur director. And again, that's not bad if the subject matter is appropriate for it. So like Hitchcock did mysteries and whatnot. And you know, he did one screwball comedy, believe it or not, but even that still has Hitchcock's you know, fingerprints all over it. But an auteur director like that is a ridiculous person to hire to do a known cultural mythology. James Gunn got away with it with Guardians of the Galaxy because only like the strictest of comic readers knew Guardians of the Galaxy. They were not a cultural mythology, and they were taking place in like another part of the galaxy. So it was part of the MCU, but it didn't really touch anything, you know, with the heroes that people had known and loved for so long, and he got away with it there. But that was Warner Brothers doing the stupid move that Warner Brothers always does, which is if you made a successful superhero film on that one, then you can surely do Superman because all superheroes are the same. You know, ridiculous, ridiculous. Studio Soup said also my favorite Superman is from Is It Just Some Random Guy? Yeah, I remember that guy. Stan, it's true. I gave my characters flaws to make them more relatable, but just because they're imperfect doesn't mean that they don't aspire to. Yeah, I think you're finishing out the quote there. Maybe you'll finish it here in a second. But yeah, it's just some random guy would do these videos with the action figures, and it was really great. He would put on these big, huge stories with just the action figures, and he would do the voice, you know, and stuff. And he had this longer arc suddenly that he started doing. And yeah, I think it was Stan Lee telling Superman why, you know, yeah, I chose my characters not to be like you because you're a DC character and you should be like this. But the only reason they work, the only reason, and I would argue take it even further, the only reason any cathartic motivational character works is if they have an aspirational hero in their universe to look up to. So Spider-Man only works because he's got a Captain America to look up to, you know, or at least that examples of that heroism in their universe. They don't work otherwise. Definitely. Yeah, Nathaniel Lisbaugh. I am a Marvel and I'm a DC. Yeah, because there were those old commercials about Macs and PCs where there was two guys and the guy with a stuffy shirt and everything. He's like, I'm a Mac. And then the cool guy would be, and I'm a PC or whatever. Or maybe I got that wrong. And it's flipped it anyway. But they would do that. He would have like Spider-Man and DC and like, hi, I'm a Marvel and I'm a DC, you know, and he would do those. They were pretty fun. Yeah, this is the rest of the quote. I'll give you the whole quote, put it in order here, just because Studio Soups took 2 super chats just to say it. Much appreciated. So Stan says, it's true I gave my characters flaws to make them more relatable, but just because they're imperfect doesn't mean they don't aspire to be the best they can. Everyone, hero or not, would love to know more. Do better, always know right from wrong, and make sure right has the strength to win out. You are the perfection Superman. You are that perfection Superman. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why it's another mark of somebody's limited intelligence when they Superman's he's just so childish. That's kiddie stuff. He's not very relatable. You're an idiot and you don't understand how mythology works. It's fine to maybe even prefer, just in your own personal taste, prefer cathartic motivational heroes. Especially, everybody goes through times in their life where they really need the cathartic motivational hero. But to just write off the aspirational heroes is really, really silly. See this? Yeah, the reason my kiss is the end of it. The reason my characters are so relatable is that they're all trying to be like you, just like everyone else. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, okay. I got that wrong. The cool guy was the Mac. The old stuffy guy was the PC. Yeah, yeah. I don't follow that viewpoint because I'm a PC guy. But but yeah, that was the commercial. They're trying to pitch Macs. If you're a gamer, you just can't be a Mac person. No one games on a Mac, boy. It was that episode of Viva La Dirt League. I don't know if you guys watched that channel. They got a lot of funny stuff. And they got that one series called Bored, which is about the people who work in the tech store, the gaming store or whatever. And there's a shoplifter tries to come in and he wants to steal, and he wants to be able to game finally. So he's going to steal a computer, and he's want to steal a Mac. And he says that he's like, yeah, because I want to be a gamer. So I want that Mac. And then this other employee comes behind him and just cracks him on the back of the head, basically killing him with a head wound. And he goes, "Nobody games on a Mac, boy." And the guy who was holding up is like, "Oh, thank you. How did you know that guy was a shoplifter?" And he's like, "He was a shoplifter?" He just heard that he dared try to game on a Mac. So bam. Launchpad said, "Hey, I use a Mac. Sound Engraver uses Macs, believe it or not. She will not learn anything other than Logic Pro for music composition, and she is Mac all the way. I had to buy her a laptop PC though, just so she could use Microsoft Word with easier track changes and everything, because she's been using Google Docs and stuff for writing. All right, well, we are over the hour limit. Let me know. I don't think I missed any super chats. Let me know if I did, but I deeply appreciate everyone's contributions. I've been seeing and reading comments. I can't always get to some of them. I missed just some random guy too. Yeah, AL. Plus, these days, writers in Hollywood feel a character is not good if he's not dark and evil. Yeah, it's so dumb. And that's been going on for a while too. Silly. So Chaotic Nunez in here too. Wanted to welcome him. Chaotician Nunez, I'm sorry. Affirmational hero. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think can think of a few examples. Riri Williams, Captain Marvel from the MCU. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's affirmation labeled with agenda or lumped together with agenda and stuff. So yeah. I always feel bad that I can't read more regular comments, but so many come in, and then if I'm going to be doing commentary as well, then it would just be me reading comments one after the other. So anyway, good stream tonight, guys. Appreciate all of your contributions and everything. But you guys have a good week. We'll be back at it again next week, and I'll try to remember to cut some things. I think we talked about a lot of good things, so I'll make sure I cut some out of this stream to give some videos this week. It's been really busy. I actually have spring break. My university's on spring break this coming week, so I still have some online tutoring and stuff like that I do, but got a little bit of a reprieve to get on top of the grading again that I get, logged under because I've got so many courses that I teach at the same time. So yeah, you guys enjoy the week. I certainly will. And I am excited about the weekend. Oh, and real quick before we go, I should have done this much earlier in the stream, but everybody join me, please, in wishing dear Sound Engraver a happy birthday. Her birthday is Monday. I don't know if she wants me to tell you how old she is, so I won't do that. But she usually doesn't care about that kind of thing. But still, let's err on the side of caution. But it's going to be her birthday on Monday, so gave her one of her presents just a little while ago, a nice collection of Arthur C. Clarke science fiction books, stories, and got more festivities to come. So happy birthday to my dear Sound Engraver. 39. Yeah, she said it herself, so I could say it. 39. And not 39 because she's actually 40 and just wants to pretend she's 39. She really is 39. So happy birthday, Sound Engraver, my dear. And hopefully the rest of you guys have a wonderful weekend and week. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love.